climate change has had a massive impact in countries like Burkina Faso. When I was there, I was interviewing elders in village communities, and they were talking about how just within their lifetimes, the climate has gotten much more hotter and there's a lot less rain. Through less rain is less varied diets, and so there's through their crops are not able to produce as much vegetables and that kind of thing. And as a result, people aren't starving. It's a bit different. People are still eating, but they're not getting the right nutrition. And as a result, there's been instances of early blindness and sickness and that kind of thing, right? Now, in general, though, when you think about how the continent of Africa and other places in the global south that are being affected by climate changes, you see it through extreme weather patterns, soil depletion, lack of rainfall, etc., and sometimes too much rainfall. So it's like, but we see bits of it here, but we don't really see the extent to how much the globe has changed. And so speaking to these elders, they've been alive for a while now, and just within their lifetimes, they've seen changes. It's all interlinked because the debt is something that was caused primarily through colonialism and what is termed as neocolonialism, which is colonialism through private corporations and export industries. The debt in the large sum to be explained really was another way of entrapment. And it was another way for these economies to turn from manufacturers to purely raw exporters. And through being indebted to countries like Britain, there is a massive power imbalance when we do trade. And the trade, therefore, is now benefiting for example, countries like Britain and America through their raw export materials. And it basically perpetuates a very unsustainable state of affairs where we have people, children in mines, like mining for cobalt and those things that we use now in our technology on a regular basis. And so with the debt now, you have these countries that they haven't got the same amount of power to determine their destinies for themselves. And so through that inequality maintains this unsustainable cycle because countries benefit through this raw export sort of trade industry. And so through debt cancellation, these countries will have the ability to be able to sustainably develop on their own terms and through their own means. And that's partly why this debt actually blocks that from happening. This sector was built under the premise of creating prosperous economies worldwide, a more egalitarian society. But unfortunately, the structures that it was built upon were made during a time of very obvious colonial repression. And after World War II, the sort of replacement of globalization from colonization. And so we have power structures in place like the Security Council and the UN that allow rich and powerful countries just to veto any kind of potential progress that we can be made if it interferes with what they want or their status quo. And so as long as development is facilitated by countries like ours who don't oftentimes have a vested interest at all in helping other countries develop, nothing will actually take place, nothing will actually change. Another example is that the International Criminal Court hasn't got the right to try any American or their allies. When you have a state of affairs like that, it kind of shows you what this is really about. Yeah, you can have small little projects here and there helping local jobs and whatever, but when you have a status quo like that, nothing's really going to be done. And so it's actually up to us to really upheave all these institutions that we've built and actually reimagine a better future for ourselves. And that won't happen until we literally actually create something new. We can't do it within the system because the system itself has been made to act in a certain way. And whenever we try and work within the system, we ultimately end up perpetuating it. There's a lot of good people that work in the aid industry. There's a lot of good people that work for the World Bank, but look what the World Bank has done in the IMF. And so at the end of the day, we need a real reimagination of what it is to be human and what it is to live in a society. We have a microcosm of competition between each other. In schools, we are encouraged to get the best marks above our neighbor, right? When I went to university in Ghana for a semester, and everybody in the class were helping each other. The class wouldn't move on until everybody understood what the concept was that the teacher was teaching us. And so there wasn't this idea that we had to compete. And now if we can apply that on the macro scale between nations, because everything that we've done here is a human creation, these things can be reversed. We don't have to see each other as competitors. Why can't we just be friends? Everybody, if we had a more egalitarian, more prosperous world economically, different cultures have everything, different cultures have different things to bring to the world, and we need to allow them to flourish. And so that's my point.